Alright, so I had an interesting few days, but it did not end well. Life happens, right? There's a lady here. I didn't want being targeted, but she was targeted. Her household was targeted. Her property was targeted. Thank you, Chris Kurth, for being an asshole. Who's Chris Kurth? Well, that's the dude that cops just wouldn't take me seriously about. Starting with Cody Sellhorst. So tonight, he and this other feller whose name is Dan, I don't know what the hell his last name is. I'm going to get you some pictures of Chris Kurth, though. See, Chris Kurth, I never really talked to him or knew him or hung out with him. I knew who he was. But the thing is, he done a lot of wrong things in the last 3 years that he shouldn't have done. Almost 3 years. A lot of people are scared. I just don't want it being all up everybody's business. I got the evidence up at my apartment, and I got a bunch of evidence here on YouTube. Having my life threatened again by Chris Kurth and by this Lieutenant, or not Lieutenant Dan, something Dan. He was in the Marines, so just pick a rank and give it to him. Well, they decided to be threatening towards me. This lady's got a farm, right? And there's horses out there, and it's beautiful. And she wants to do therapeutic riding, and she wants to help people that got PTSD. You know, and that's right. A lot of people have that dream. They're just prevented from doing so. I know myself as one of them. And I would love nothing more to help this woman with her dream. The problem is, you know, it's wonderful for a couple of days. And we have some mutual friends in common, which is the thing that really came in handy tonight. See, there's a guy I know here in town, and his dad runs a business. And he's friends with the lady that I was staying with. They've been friends since they were in grade school. So quite a few years. And as a result, well, that gentleman tried to defuse the situation. And Chris Kurth was just going to talk over him. And I'm not going to just sit there and let people do that. I'm going to defend myself verbally. And I'm going to hope that they see reason and don't get physical. I already know that if people get physical with me, I get in trouble. They don't care what the witnesses say, I get in trouble. At one point, Chris Kurth called up, or claimed that he was calling up some other people that were going to come out there and kill me. And at that point, I was glad the man that had been friends with that lady since she was a kid, I was glad he got a hold of his son to have his son come pick up the dog. Chris Kurth had to get somebody else to try to harm me yet again. I don't get this. Why would you want to harm an innocent man? Well, yeah, because he speaks out. That one, this one typed, "Hi, Sean, glad you're okay." Let me show you a picture of Chris Kurth. A few pictures, actually. Just because I absolutely do feel it is necessary at this point. Now it says that it's full, which means that it just doesn't want to record. I'm lucky because it'll at least take some pictures, which is what I'm doing. Took some screenshots. This is what kurth looks like. I don't know how well that'll show. This is the second time he's come to threaten me. This time he jumped across the border to Cheyenne County, just the other side of Lodgepole. Here's another picture of him. Oh my God, he's a big Billy fucking badass, isn't he? I'm betting he knows how to get violent, doesn't he? Here's the thing. Most of his family, so far as I know, never done wrong to me. This guy's got a family, though, so that somehow magically makes his crimes okay. Oh, sorry. I got involved in YouTube or Facebook. He actually does look a bit scary. Well, don't take looks into account. Have I taught you nothing about that? That one, this one. Typing in the live chat over here, of course. It's not the matter of Chris being scary or not. I mean, sure, he looks scary, but he's not going to do anything by himself. Especially not after me making sure that it is documented, since the police did everything that they could to make sure it wasn't. Although Cody Selhorst, his cameras on his body camera might still exist here, and there's got to be a way to get a hold of those, and I've been trying. Once I get more money in, I'll be able to do a little bit more, or maybe I'll get a hole in the head. You never know. But y'all know what'll happen if I go to the police. I certainly don't want to see him here. And then folks are like, man, I don't understand why you're so pissed off, Sean. Why can't you just let it go? Like, are you fucking kidding me? There's a reason I'm speaking out. There's a reason that I fight for other people's rights, even if I'm not a part of their group. They're humans too. And nobody gets that. All of these crimes that people want to pretend are okay to commit against me, like, they're not okay. And if I just threaten to do any of those things, the whole house of cards comes down on top of me, doesn't it? Meanwhile, I've been posting this stuff on nearly 2,000 Facebook posts, or nearly 2,000 YouTube videos just on this channel, plus the one that was destroyed. I keep posting evidence. Somebody's got to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, even if it's just me. Even if it's somebody that people want to pretend is retarded because he's autistic, or pretend that he's on drugs because he has Tourette syndrome. Somebody that they know they can abuse and just call him mentally ill, and they can do it again and again and again. And I keep hearing about how white people don't have to go through this. I'm living it. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my heroes for a fucking reason. I have fucking lived this shit. Jesus is one of my heroes for a fucking reason. I have lived this shit. I have taken beatings. I have taken lashings. I have taken every manner of abuse, and I am fucking still here. If you're gonna do it, do it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. There's actual bad people doing these bad things. And instead of threatening my life, why don't you come over and look at the evidence? Why don't you try to find out the truth before coming up and threatening my life, threatening to do all this, that, and the other, or call your buddies to come and do it? Oh, hell no. I know rule number one. You never talk to the cops. Fuck you. These dead people are my loved ones. And in some cases, yes, they're complete strangers, but they're complete strangers that would be alive if the police had listened to me. If my friends had listened to me instead of continually blowing me off and being asshats. With Candace being threatened before they found Natalie Bollinger's fucking, whoa, spider. Feel something move under your fingers, right? At least I got tobacco. That lady who took care of me, I went up there and made sure that her cows stayed in, and she introduced me to them. I was getting a little familiar with them, and her dogs are great too. I mean, they're old, but it's not something that people should have to go through. I mean, some people you just don't get back up. You get people who are threatened and fucking harassed and afraid, and I've showed that repeatedly on here and on my Facebook. And having to make my Facebook private so that people couldn't do that before. I wasn't able to make my Facebook public until recently. And when you've made everything so that it's private so only your friends can see it, you know, you have to go post by post to make them public again. And that's a lot of time. The thing is that this isn't something that people should have to deal with. Everyone should be allowed an honest day in court, due process of law, the right to face their accuser. And when it comes to someone's human rights or constitutional rights being taken away, it does need to be taken seriously by the courts. If a person can be illegally prevented from going to court and have their constitutional rights taken away and have their money taken away, have their name slandered and be abused repeatedly, have the term mentally ill be used to justify why it would magically somehow be okay. See, it's not just Chris Kurth. There's a reason that the cops didn't do anything. And that other guy, whether he was a Marine or not, I don't care. I don't. See, that's traitorous. Now, I understand what it is that's supposed to happen to a Marine who is a traitor during a time of war. And I do understand that this is a war against the poor. And I do understand that there are a lot of people who aren't going to look at both sides. They don't care. They've already chosen a side. And they're going to do whatever they can to get away with it. People aren't understanding that the cops in this town, if you go back through our videos, they say all sorts of different shit about what I should do. And then when Scott DaCosta told me that I should have taken it to him, I was fucking trying to take it to him. I was trying to get Jen Beebe there so that I could fucking make the report and make sure that it was reported because my caseworker was there. And what happened? My caseworker didn't even get but a few sentences into it. She kept on interrupting me to tell me that I missed an appointment. It was either miss that appointment or go to court. It was Joseph Michael Lopez's court so that I could take those cops to jail and so that I could I needed to be able to file reports against the Bollingers. I needed to before Natalie was killed. Before Natalie was killed. And people are telling me, dude, you just need to fucking blow it off. You just need to let it go. I'm like, I'm still dealing with it, people. There's a reason I'm speaking out. Nobody should have to go through this. There are a lot of homeless people who have to go through this every single day because these are just your assumptions and you're not allowed to prove otherwise. So many homeless people have shit on their records because the news didn't care. They just automatically posted up that they're the bad guys, and that's the way it was. Train. There's got to be a way to save lives. There's got to be a way for me to get back to it. There's got to be a way for me to get that Roman marching forward. All I need is dirt, just 1 acre of flat land. I got $10,000. It's supposed to be coming in. I can get 2,400 of it every 6 months. And I believe it was recently cut off to only 3 payments, and I already had one, and it got spent on essentials and supplies and paying back debts. Chris Kurth was trying to pretend like he had paid me $500, and I had stiffed him to try to get this former Marine to try to harm me physically. And this former Marine kept saying, I'm a biker, I'm a biker, I'm a biker. Okay. And of course, I've been hearing for days about how all he likes to do is go out and shoot stuff and kill stuff and blow stuff up and shoot stuff and kill stuff and blow stuff up. And that poor lady, she's like, I just let him do it. He's got his own PTSD he's got to deal with, And then this guy wants to be intimidating towards me. Well, here's the thing. It's fine to be that way towards me. It really is. There's nothing I can do about it. But if you do it to somebody else, I am going to stand up for them. It doesn't matter what color they are. You don't do things like that to people. You look at the truth. That means looking at both sides. It means looking at cause and effect. How did it all start? How did it all begin? How did these government entities operate? How did they act and react? How did others act and react? And I've got over 10,000 screenshots that show a whole bunch of that. I've got a bunch of other interactions with other people that show that. I mean, yeah, I've got valid reasons to be having panic attacks, to be being scared for my loved ones, and to be scared for those around me. I don't want people getting killed, especially not innocent people who didn't do nothing wrong. I don't care if you're a black person, a white person, a purple person, it doesn't matter. You're a human being to me. And I know how big the KKK is here, and I know how heavy it is, especially among the bikers here, and I know how much hatred and discontent there really is right now in this country, and I told y'all. But I'm autistic, so I must be retarded. And I wasn't treated that way when I hid autism from everybody as best I could. When I learned to pretend that I'm an asshole like most of you folks, and I do mean most of y'all, because see, floating like that is cowardice. People say, Sean, you need to just pick one cause and stick with it. No, I don't. Human rights are our cause. Human rights. That means everyone has equal rights and an equal chance. None of this. I came from a rich family. I was well fed and I'm good looking, and I got to use my easy ass summer job to pay for my first car, so I can say that I did it all myself. Meanwhile, there's people like me that didn't even live with our fucking parents when we were 16, 17, and 18, but we were still going to work and still feeding our little brother and sister. Fuck them. I know how heavy the KKK is in this town. I know how heavy the Aryan Brotherhood is in this town. And I stand up to them. I stand up to them. But when it comes to the situations where innocent people are going to be harmed, that's not going to happen. And that's how these guys continue to be idiots. For example, not just Chris Kurth tonight and his buddy just wanted to be a jerk. You know, I knew something was up when Chris Kurth was outside, and the lady who was at the house, she said, "Could you go take care of the guest?" And she doesn't like Chris Kurth much either, by the way. Doesn't think much of him, but she doesn't like trouble, so she basically ignores him. And then he shows up at her door with her Marine buddy, who's her hired hand. Just not cool, you know? That lady didn't deserve that, especially out of somebody that she really wants to trust. I mean, she wants to trust her hired hand. She wants to trust the gentleman who's a friend of hers, you know? She wants to trust both of them. And meanwhile, this guy who's a friend of hers, he's trying to change the subject and deflect it. And I know that technique. You know, this guy's not a dummy. I know all of his kids, and they are all fucking super geniuses. His daughter, his oldest daughter, is very extremely likely to be quite a few IQ points more than I got. I mean, she is extremely smart. And her younger brother, he might be older brother. I don't know. I'm not sure which one's older. I think he is because she was in my class. And God, he shouldn't have had to fucking deal with that. And you know, of course, my friend came out and got his dog and gave me a ride into town. He didn't necessarily have the best of nights. I don't know. I should have played therapist to him like I usually do with everybody else, but I don't want to hear people's stories. I know what happens if I don't tell your stories to other people. It means that innocent people die. And I'm tired of that. And I kept on telling those two guys tonight, hey, I'm tired of my loved ones dying. I'm tired of them being killed. I'm tired of these evils and people making excuses. Syrian Brotherhood, they're easy to tell. They're white people who've been to the pen, who have the clover tattoo. Y'all know what neo-Nazis are. A lot of y'all don't understand that they're very much like that towards Jewish people too. And I have been very, very open about my Hebrew ancestry. That's not something that I keep trying to bring into it, but it's something I mention. My ancestors were also German and Russian. My ancestors were from all over the world. Those of you who have taken DNA tests have been surprised to find that you're not 100% German. Many of you found that you were between 80 and 90% Persian. Imagine that. But you're German. You're German. You're German. You must be German. There's also a lot of people throughout the world that we are mutts, loud and proud. If you are a purebred, this is what I learned about horses. This is what I learned about cats. This is what I learned about dogs. And this is what I learned about human beings. The more inbred they are, the more genetic deficiencies they got. So I'm glad to be a mutt. A mutt is less likely to have any of those breed standard genetic deficiencies. Whenever I see a German Shepherd, I feel like shit because I know it's going to get itself a hip spread. Sometimes as young as 4 to 6 years old, often after having puppies. Usually it hits them hard around 10 to 14, real heavy. and it hurts so bad that you can't get them to get up. You can't get them to stand up. You have to feed them Advil and Tylenol and anything that the vet tells you to give them to get them back up again. And much last longer. The strongest gene wants to survive. And in the cases of pure breeds, we have bred out the genetically strongest portions for genetic traits that we want specifically for us. What we've done to dogs is a terrible thing. And I'm not supposed to care about animals. And people say you just need to take care of yourself. And I'm doing the best that I can. I'm also trying to help others. Because none of us get to do this alone. None of us can. Not us at the bottom, especially not when they do anything that they can to try to make sure that you have no money. And you can't make a report, and you can't afford any of the things that you need in order to just survive, let alone getting things like a printer. I finally got a printer. I finally got housing back. Everything that I needed, that I've been speaking out about for 2 years, ever since 2.5 years, ever since Natalie died and I lost my housing and I lost my disability money. And I wasn't able to go anywhere, and I was busy being threatened, harassed, and assaulted, having my name slandered all over the news, being charged with a crime I didn't commit, and then they dropped the charges. But that's on my permanent arrest record. I have to get an attorney to get that off my arrest record. Otherwise, every police officer in America treats you like shit. No matter what, I was never allowed to make a police report, and I told you that would happen if people didn't go in with me. After 2 years, Laura finally went in with me, and she was one of the witnesses in some of these cases that Scott Costa at the beginning of that video says I'm not allowed to talk to his investigator or talk to his officer, Officer Holloway, about. And I recorded that and I posted that on this very YouTube. Now, the fact that I can't record videos because it'll automatically turn off, I know that I've tried. Once it says this at the top, let me show you. The storage space running out, some system functions may not work. That right there, that is what happens when my phone is full of evidence and I can't make videos then. Otherwise, I would have recorded the situation tonight. I've recorded probably close to 500 conversations. Well, no, at least 300, 350. But there's over 200 of those conversations right here on this very YouTube. And there's a couple of them. There's one of them that's only on my phone because I can't get it to download to YouTube. And that one and the other one are both going to be private because, you know, that's not something that a kid should have to go through. Not from their mom, not from their predators. And somebody got to do something. Somebody's got to take a look. I try to show, and I can prove that I've tried to show it on the internet, every avenue that I can. Like I just did with Chris Kurth's picture. I mean, I can show you pictures of my other predators too. All right. Sorry about the train. All right. Download image. Open. Now he's got a whole bunch of Facebook profiles. This is Ted Bollinger, another biker. That's Natalie's father, the one that raped her and sold her body to pay his drug debts. Many of the witnesses to this are right to fear for their lives from these people. And throwing me under the bus is no problem for them, especially if they've got families. So then I have to deal with it. But I don't believe in killing people. Tim Beeson, Natalie Bollinger. Wow, that's the first one up there now. Now that shows messages between Natalie and Tim at the time, and the big ass story that she was spinning with that. But it doesn't show mine for some odd reason, even though I've posted it up repeatedly, over and over and over again. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is. Maybe if I type Tim Beeson, Colorado. Well, it's more of the messages between her and him. I personally have him blocked. See, that's the thing, is that these people were threatening my life far before Natalie Bollinger was ever killed. And my messages between Tim Beeson and I prove that. The problem is, I need help getting a lawyer to take a look at it. I need help getting a grand jury to take a look at it. I need help getting senators and governors and, well, everybody to look. I literally threatened the President of the United States' life in 2018 to try to force a court date, to try to force an outside agency to take a look. I had been trying to get the FBI. I'd been trying to get the Broomfield Police Department and Adams County, and I had tried to get Boulder County, and I had tried to get Chapel to fucking listen. I mean, it's... And then, that's something nobody understands. Only one side was allowed to be shown, and so much harm has come of it. If Alicia Bollinger were forced to take a look at what these people have done to me and continue to do to me, it'd be a different fucking story. Alicia knows I didn't do those things, and she needs to come forward and admit it in a court of law. I literally broke the fucking law myself in order to get a court date between me and her, and I was illegally prevented from going. It's fine though, right? It's fine that my public pretender, Pamela Carty, repeatedly did not show up for court. It's fine that the police were allowed to threaten, harass, and intimidate me. I have a lot of stuff written. It's up at my apartment, but a lot of it I've shown you on here. Of some of the other witnesses that I was in jail with and how I was treated. Shipped around to pod. And why is that? Because I was always trying to get an investigator there. Before that situation where Brian Valenzuela was pretending he was investigating a crime in a different county. Life is grand, ain't it? Meanwhile, my camper smells like something fucking died in it. I think it's my last pair of socks. They're underneath this trash pile on the right. It smells like fucking feet and like a dead bird, or maybe that raccoon died or a mouse died in here. I don't know. Fucking stinks. Dallas was pointing it out the other day, and I was like, fuck, that is nasty, but you're right, dude. And, like, I don't know, it makes sense why an animal would want to fucking die in here. It's not raining. It's nice and cozy. I'm not always here, and it's an old horse trailer. I mean, you never get to smell animal out of it. But that lady, she was going to try and help me. She said, I understand exactly what you're talking about. You know what? I stick up for Black lives too. She says she's very unpopular because that is not the way that cowboys are taught to think, or something similar to that. But being threatened over by a lodgepole, and other than that, I had a good day. The day before was great too. That lady, she was going over to her old house because she's got one of them that's the business, the family ranch, and the other one that's her own place that she's renting from somebody else, and she's moving and consolidating. That way she's not, paying a whole bunch of extra money because she's trying to make her business flourish. And part of that starts with conserving as much money as possible. But she's a very nice lady, and she knows a lot of the same people I do. And she has a lot of the same issues with a lot of the same officers. And a lot of this stuff, it would be lovely to record it, but this lady, I didn't feel that I had to. She said that she was going to try to help me get a lawyer. And with me getting threatened out there, and her hired hand taking part in it, that's just not okay. Now I'm worried about my friend's dad out there. I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll be all right. I mean, he's pretty much an essential worker. But the thing is that that man shouldn't have had to deal with that either. He shouldn't have had to try to change the subject. That situation should have never happened. But that guy who was a biker went to his biker buddy and said, "Hey, this guy owes me $500." This very same guy who had threatened my life in 2018 threatened my life to try to get me out of town. He claims he gave me $500. So, are you sure about that? This guy's like, are you sure you haven't had other times where you borrowed money and didn't remember?" I'm like, what do you mean fucking borrowed money? If he's saying that he gave me $500, that would have been fucking great. Really, but it didn't fucking happen. The guy who lives here, I give him money for when I was staying here, and of course staying here now, and having this place all set up and all of that. And although it's not very much, it's enough to keep the internet on. But he's told me that I've already paid up enough to be paid off. And the thing is, I don't think that's correct. I know how long I was here. And he says, well, there was no running water in the bathroom except for the toilet. It's just cold water. There's no heat. The place is a trash pit. It's probably a health hazard. And that's why I'm tearing everything out and gutting it and starting over. And he is. He's a good dad. He is a good dad. Doesn't matter what anybody else says about it. So that's the guy whose property I'm staying on now. He's never done me wrong, and he is listened to me. You guys have seen my videos. You listen to me having a panic attack, He's here for those. Not all of them. Most of them he's gone for, but once in a while when I'm watching a show with him, because I was staying in the house, I didn't have the trailer. I didn't get my disability money back until recently. I mean, it was all being spent on going to the courts And I got to the point where I literally couldn't afford it. And I had to do something desperate. I'm like, the cops aren't listening to me. I've gone in repeatedly to try to make reports. And by trying to make reports against officers in Colorado, I had to not go to an appointment. And that was with Jen Beebe. And that's the thing, is that I had to do one or the other. And it was that important. I was going to do it earlier, but my grandma fucking died. And going to her funeral meant that I had to miss it. Otherwise, I would have done it, what was it, 2 weeks earlier, 2 weeks before Joseph Michael Lopez's court date. I could have been able to go and do that, but my grandma's death prevented it, and I had to go in on a different date. And that different date happened to coincide when I was supposed to see Jen Beebe. And that was unfortunate because I had a lot of stuff that needed to be taken care of, but I'd explained to her about the Dual County Sheriff's Department. That is absolutely for certain. And she kept telling me, well, there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that. You have to get a hold of these people. You have to get a hold of those people. But she kept on reassuring me that she does want to help me and that she does understand. And when I was explaining to her a lot of the stuff from the system when I was a kid that's the same when you're an adult, she was like, yeah, I know. I've been through it. That's why I have the job. You know, I was a foster kid. But then, like, she's also showing that she has not been through this extreme quantity of bullshit. She's not understanding it. She's not stopping to listen enough because she's thinking of it from just one point of view, one small window of all of the stuff that I'm dealing with. A lot of people are like, if you just shut up, people would quit harassing me on the internet. But it's not the internet that's the problem. It's real life. It's here in real life everywhere I go. And it follows me everywhere I go. And I should have been allowed a court date. I should have had a place where I could go without having my money stolen from me, without having my belongings stolen from me, without having to choose between a blanket that might keep me from freezing to death or a whole backpack full of evidence that for 7 months nobody would look at. Nobody cared what was in that backpack. And there were people who were trying to help me with that, and I've named them. People like Brian Townsend. He's been the victim of racism in front of me, and I did speak out. When that happened to Brian Townsend, there at the Super 8 Motel there across from Walmart in Longmont, Colorado, I spoke out. That was such a screwed up thing for him to have to go through. I know the rich heritage of hatred here. I know that the majority of the people in this area are descendants of Germanic settlers or Dutch settlers. I know there's a lot of different people in the area, and I know that, yeah, I've been told that I have Jew curls most of my life. People have made fun of me. And you know what? I'll pull them out for you. These things right here, this is my beard, but there's these things by my ear that I always do this with. You can't really see the end of them, but I'll pull one of them out for you. It's part of my hair right here. When it gets wet, it gets super curly, and I have one that goes down each side. And, you know, that people keep saying you need to shave, you need to shave. Well, why? Why are looks that important? What if my hair keeps me warm? What if the less hair I have, the less warm I am? What if the length that is starting to get warm is long enough that it's going in my face and in my ears, so I want it longer so that I can put it back? These things shouldn't happen. People, this is the reason that we allow people, or are supposed to allow them, honest counsel. I mean, we're paying for these public pretenders. Us taxpayers are paying for it. They're not doing their job. When I say it's not just a black issue, I'm not pretending for even one moment that it is not a black issue. But I will outright and blatantly state that it is not a black issue. That is the only point that we're going to focus on, because it is not just a black issue. It is all of our issue. We are all in this together, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not. There are plenty of people who are applauding this crap and all of this evil and all of this terrible crap from both sides of this racial, basically whites against everybody. And I can see why. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, there are lots of broke white people who are going through the same damn thing because they're broke. Just like America does everything that it can to try to make sure that immigrants are broke. And not necessarily immigrants. If you're an immigrant from another country, well, they definitely want you to succeed for at least a little bit here so that you can get more of your friends and family over here. We still want to immigrate people in. Well, it depends on who's the president, right? No, it doesn't. It depends on economics. If you have a given area of China that you want to trade with and bypass these embargoes so that everything in America says made in China, like it does, you have to know some Chinese nationals who are from that area, who would know workers from that area, who would possibly know foremen from that area, who could possibly find another way to route it through another country. But then again, we're still trading straight across with China, and we keep, for the entirety of my life, telling everyone how terrible China is, but we're still trading with them, aren't we? Despite all of our trade embargoes, besides all of our sanctions against, and so on and so forth. I fight for the Constitution. I don't care about your biker code. I don't care about the brother code. I don't care about the man code. I'm not down with that. If you're cheating on your girlfriend, yeah, I'm probably going to tell her. I'll probably get hated for it, but I'm not going to fucking lie to her. You shouldn't have told me that shit, especially if it's somebody who's a friend of mine. Of course, what happens when I tell the friend of mine that this dude's cheating on her? Oh, you're just jealous. You just want to fuck me. Oh my God. See, this is why I pretend women are lesbians. Someone named Cinnabite type dude, I hope you're all right. I'm not all right. I've not been all right physically or mentally in a long time. I mean, there's only so much abuse that a person can take before they break. And I have been at that point so many times. So this lady said that I could take my trailer out there and not be messed with, escape Colorado, or escape Chapel, and get away from these people. That's the thing that folks aren't understanding. It's everywhere I go. That's what happens when the news makes a big case out of it, but then they don't care to show the whole truth. The whole truth was that Natalie and her friends and her family were stalking me before Natalie was killed, and I was suicidal, and I begged everyone to shoot me. I begged everyone to trade me a vehicle, my vehicle, back when it still worked anyway. And I finally got it working again. Dave Nelson can admit, and so can his wife, that the problems that there were with that vehicle actually existed. They were pre-existing. And my vehicle did break down over at Ken and Leah's months before Natalie was killed. And I just need to be able to get it up and going. I had to ask Brandon Ratner for help. And I had to ask Derek Parrish and Joanna Taylor Smith for help in moving, as well as Brenda Dickinson across the street. And none of them were even willing to admit that. I'm like, I had to do that because the vehicle wouldn't work, because the steering wheel wasn't working. Something that Miss Laura Nelson says that she's already spoken to the sheriff about. So we'll have to try to requisition that in court. I know where most of this evidence is. I know whose stuff needs to be requisitioned. I also know that at this point it's a federal matter and that disabled people should not be treated like this. Nobody should be treated like this. You got no idea how many Jew jokes I hear every fucking month by people who think it's funny of all different colors. I don't find racist jokes funny no matter what they are. That's not true. I'm going to tell you all a joke. How many cops does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. They arrest the bulb for being broke, and then they beat the room for being black. And the fact is, that's a damn near accurate description. I'm not going to pretend for one moment that this racist stuff against black folks isn't happening. Not for one moment. When that shit happened to Ventus, I posted the shit out of it, and I'm still going to post the shit out of it. What those all did to him was outright and blatantly racist. They also did the same thing to him that they did to me. In Boulder County, the hundreds of witnesses that I have of all of these children being stolen from their parents, mostly blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls under the age of 6. If it's a newborn baby girl, you can get up to $1.5 million. Oh my God, you guys. This is state sanctioned. This isn't a joke. And people treat me like I'm schizophrenic or like I'm some tinfoil hat wearing Illuminati motherfucker. No. Christopher Weaver had to go through this. His daughter was blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Mariah Johnston had to go through this. A lot of women that I know had to go through this. Chelsea Aiken had to go through it. And she admitted that she was too young and probably shouldn't have had kids. But now she's a good mother. So that's obviously not true. She just needed help. She didn't need her children stolen and given to some rich family. I mean, there are so many more people out there too going through the same thing. The same thing. If 1 out of 10 of these victims are black, number one, I'm not going to pretend that it's not happening to black people, because it is. I'm also not going to pretend that the other 9 victims are at fault for it. I'm also not going to pretend that it's all right that it happened to the other 9 victims because they're not black. I'm also not going to ignore those other 9 victims just because they're not black. A lot of white people are afraid to tell their stories. White society, as most of us have noticed, is very much a society of judgment, hatred, discontent, assumptions, and, of course, the good old-fashioned American witch hunt. Welcome to Salem, folks. People kept thinking of me like, before they knew who I am in person at all, they were thinking of me like Forrest Gump, or like one guy said he thought, you know, he expected me to look like Corky from but I can't even remember the name of that show now. Life Goes On, maybe? I don't know. That was back in the 90s. But, you know, that's a lot of the stuff that I have to deal with. Now, LaRon Faust, he and one of his friends, I was arguing with him today, and it wasn't about most of the stuff that they said. Most of the stuff they said that you know, I agreed with it. But just as always, he went after looks. Looks. Just like I've been saying, and being black is a part of that. Being ugly is also a part of that. Being obese is also a part of that. There are some people that just aren't human to our society or to certain individuals just because we don't fit their criteria of what they consider as a human being. Are black people human beings? Yes, they are. Do their lives matter? Yes, they do. There was an analogy about how this is, how you all lives matter racist sound. And it's got this big old thing typed out about Bob. And Bob is supposed to represent black people. It says Bob is sitting at a table with a bunch of other people and he doesn't get any food. And he says, Bob doesn't have any food. And the whole table says, uh, or he says, Bob deserves food. And everybody else says, everybody deserves food and continues eating. Well, that's to say that everybody else at the table has a plate and is eating too. They're not. Native Americans are going through this shit. Homeless people are going through this shit. All of this I get to hear about black people. They're always telling me about all this bullshit that I've seen in my lifetime to be bullshit. These guys here are just racist assholes. They want to pretend like all black people are lazy. All black people are picking up a welfare check. All black people are secretly drug dealers who have a Corvette, or it's always a drop top, isn't it? In those stories, it's always somebody with a fancy car that's a convertible, a BMW convertible, a Jaguar convertible. He's driving a Corvette convertible, or he's driving a Lamborghini convertible. And we hear those things, and people want to believe that stuff. You know what? I knew a couple of people who were homeless who had BMWs. You know why that is? Because they had BMWs before they went homeless. One of them was rich, and he just didn't like his daddy's rules, so he left the house and took his car with him and lived in his car. And then his dad still loved him and sent him several $1,000s a month. And he bought himself some girlfriends that he got pregnant, and then he was not so nice to them. I'm not allowed to say nothing though, right? Well, when me not saying something results in my loved ones dying, then fuck your opinions. I am fucking telling. I'm not just gonna sit and watch my loved ones die, no matter what color they are. I'm not gonna pretend that any of the shit that these people had to go through because they tried to defend me is okay, no matter what color they are. And all of these people, I have these recordings that show exactly why they were too afraid. And yes, some of them were real hip on the fact that they were being recorded. Miss Laura has a sixth sense about when she's being recorded, but that also comes down to what I'm talking about. She knows automatically that if I start talking about something we were talking about before that she didn't get on camera, or that I didn't get on camera, she knows that it's something that's not on camera, and that there's a reason that she keeps real quiet at those points in time. It's easy to tell which one she's doing based on whether she talks a whole bunch or whether she's quiet. Then people want to hear this narrative and these rumors and all this crap and that crap about how I felt like this about these people and those people and so on and so forth. It's such fucking. A lot of people tell me I just need to forget about it and move on. Have you not seen that I've been trying? All of this legal bullshit, all of this crap of being homeless. When you're homeless, you're victimized by cops. That's as simple as it is. People call in and they say, or so the police claim. Sometimes they claim that people called in, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just straight up harass you and they fuck with you and fuck with you. And when it's got on your arrest record that you were arrested for assaulting a police officer, by the way, a police officer named Waylon Lolatai, who was involved in Samuel Leon Lawrence the fourth's case, as well as Michelle Rodriguez's case, as well as Zaid Atkinson's situation. Yes, Waylon Lolatai was there for all three of those. as well as 4 more that year, including mine. He was assaulting people, and I was the one who was charged with assault when he assaulted me, and people wanted to believe it because of the slander against me. When I tried to tell on him, I was sent to a hospital. I was sent away repeatedly, just like I was here when I tried to tell on the cops here. I was sent away. People say, why don't you go to the cops? Because if they're not forced to wear their cameras and keep their cameras on and forced to look at the evidence, I have to have someone there to make them do that. I'm thankful that Laura Nelson went with me last time. It sucks that she didn't get to talk much because of a lot of those situations she wasn't part of. But the situations that she was are the ones that I need to report the most. And she said she might be able to take me up there to go talk to the FBI, but that she was afraid and that she would have to set it up. And then she told me later that she couldn't. Said she was scared too. And of course, I did what I do when people say that. I get loud and I scream the truth at the top of my lungs. They don't like that. They say, Sean, why'd you put me on blast? Well, because you turned a blind eye to this. When good men do nothing, that is evil enough. That's a famous quote. Me personally, I'd rather say, when good people do nothing, that is evil enough. That man tonight who owns a business here in Chapel, him being there, he did a good thing by trying to redirect it. And he was getting ready to leave and he was getting ready to go home. And he decided to stay, decided to have his son come and get his dog so that I would have a safe way out of there. And that way innocent people wouldn't get hurt. But now I'm worried about him. Although I'm also making sure that it's documented so that if the man disappears or any harm comes to him, it's documented here on my YouTube. Alicia Bollinger doesn't want to face the fact that so many people would do so many terrible things just because she didn't want to tell the truth. It's a terrible world that we live in now. When I saw that white girl at that bus station or at that train station, and the hell smacked out of her by a bunch of minorities, I thought to myself, that is terrible. That is terrible. That is a child. You're doing that too. What's wrong with you? Or that young man who was sitting on that bench waiting on a bus. Hell, he might have been there to help out Black Lives Matter. All we know is he was getting beat the fuck down. People were smacking him around and telling him he wanted it, needed it, chose it, deserved it. You can see the people in the video laughing and smiling and clapping their hands about it. I've stuck up for minorities nearly my entire life. I've stuck up for women nearly my entire life, and I've had to stick up for men too. Not all women are good. Not all men are good. But the ones who are good looking, you give more chances than anyone else. Your good looking husband can beat you 3 times a month and get away with it. But the guy who always rescues you from that, well, you always throw him under the bus. And then when the man hits you again, you want to go back to that dude who fucking rescued you and you threw him under the bus repeatedly. You say, hey, can you rescue me again? And then you say, you're not a real friend. You are not a real friend if you don't rescue me this time. I say, I've been thrown under the bus 6 times already. Yes, Miss Jerry, I'll be there again. Yes, Miss Jerry. I will come rescue you and your children again. Me and Miss Jerry in our conversation on Facebook, and I've got it recorded too. I helped raise her children. When I read that racist post against Colin Kaepernick, where they asked for a soldier to punch Colin Kaepernick, a human rights activist, in the throat, it's gross. Human rights. You know, he's also involved in MMIW and MMIP. Those of you who don't know what that is, that's missing and murdered Indigenous people, missing and murdered Indigenous women, Native Americans across the country in Mexico and Canada, being murdered by exposure to the elements, just like the homeless people in cities nationwide. Chris Kurth, he wants to come mess with me with his biker buddies. Most of the biker buddies around here are Aryan Brotherhood. I know where they're coming from. I also know the KKK guys. Here's the thing about them. Ever since I moved to Chapel, Nebraska, they had this group of guys called the Chapel Mafia. And I always thought it was just a big, long-running joke. But I was at one of the local gas stations where these old men congregate. Well, they were saying a bunch of racist stuff I didn't agree with. Also, I'd seen most of these men, they hired underage girls to go pick rye in their fields. And these girls' mothers are okay with this. And they go and pick rye out of the wheat fields while these farmers sit on their fucking tailgates and watch these girls. And nobody will do anything about it. But I didn't realize that these old men were what they call Chapel Mafia until just about a month or so ago. I was talking about some things they were saying and doing and how they, and I wasn't mentioning these guys at this gas station in specific. I was just talking about the situation where they watch those little girls and nobody does anything about it. And about how they sit around having their coffee every morning talking about how hard they work and how lazy all of these immigrants are. And then they hire immigrants to do their houses and immigrants to do the harvesting. And they talk the whole time about how hard they work for it. And then they want to talk about the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment. Meanwhile, they want to deny the First Amendment to black people. They want to deny the First Amendment to poor people. They want to deny the First Amendment to people with no families. And they want to deny the First Amendment to people who have different religions than them. They want to. You getting where I'm coming from? Laurent Faust, I've invited him to come out here to Chapel a few times. I want to bring a whole busload of black people out here so this community can learn about actual black folks instead of hating on them. I mean, how can you hate on Mexicans and then have them working on your roof because you're wanting to save a few dollars? You already know when you hire those guys to get on your roof that not all of them are necessarily here in the country legal. And although you talk about illegals stealing all of your jobs, here you are hiring someone who is in this country illegal to do the roof, and you don't care. All you care about is the fact that it's a white guy who's the boss who comes and collects the check in most of these cases. I mean, there was some Hispanic workers, and they helped with this lady out there with her roof, and she was very grateful to them, and she was very good to them, and she treated them like human beings, and she even tried to speak Spanish with them. You know, she made an effort. How many of y'all make an effort? And she understands what it's like to be treated like you're mentally ill and have people threaten your life. And you know, she's at least allowed to be armed, which is good. I'm glad that she can defend herself. I'm glad that she has someone else out there who's willing to help defend her, even though he's misguided. Because I do believe that that friend of hers will try to keep her protected. We got to do something about these child molesters, and I have so much evidence that I've shown already on this YouTube. I have made thousands of videos. Some of those are videos of events themselves. Some of them are videos of evidence that I've collected and written, and some of it are videos of screenshots of conversations between me and others. Some of them are actual conversations between me and others. Some of them are actual altercations with people who are police or others. I've even there's even a child molester who I met in Washington State, and he was murdered last year. But he was the guy who most likely stole my computer. The computer that was full of a lot of evidence that I'd like some help. If anyone knows how to do these things electronically in person in Chapel, Nebraska, who isn't too afraid. I'd like to be able to learn how to go through these things and how to get all of this stuff. I've been trying for a couple of years, and people who are on drugs and people who are alcoholics, and having those be the only people who are offering me the actual help that I need. And then I get there and they're too drunk to do it, or they're too fucked up on drugs to do it. And, I got all of them to admit that I don't do drugs. All of them. But people still want to go back to that, whatever excuse they can. Like the thing with Cody Kurth, or no, Chris Kurth. See, that's the thing. Cody didn't do anything to me. Cody did nothing to me. It's Chris Kurth that's being a fucking skis doucher. And you guys have seen me talk about Chris Kurth on this very YouTube channel to these officers. Why don't I go to the officers at this point? I don't trust any of them. I don't. They helped the predators to get away. That's what they did. Because people assumed that I did things to Natalie that I didn't. By her own words, I didn't. But you don't want to see that, do you? You don't want to hear that, do you? You just want someone to hate. You're not allowed to hate black people anymore, so you're going to hate the homeless that much more. Every one of you who doesn't want to go to prison for a hate crime against a black person, you're going to take it out on a homeless person. You already know this is true. And you can pretend that it's not that bad. The harder times get, the more people reach for sin, the more they reach for hate, the more they reach for excuses for harm against others. And that harm affects innocent people. And you never want to look at that. Is it worth the human cost in innocent lives to do these things? If the United States made slavery illegal today, then there would be a lot of homeless slaves who would never get a paycheck for it, who would never see a stimulus for it, who would never truly be emancipated, because as long as officers don't have to wear their body cameras or turn them on, they can do whatever they want to whoever they want. And who's the easiest person to get away with doing it to? The person you can turn your body camera off of. Do whatever you want to them, and then you've already got them discredited because the public hates them. Because all of that stuff that you say about black people and Mexicans and them stealing all of this, that, and the other, you say those things about the homeless too, don't you? And many of these minority families teach the same thing about the homeless. I mean, I have so many black homeless friends who are like, dude, my mom fucking totally talks to me like that. But yeah, you chose to be homeless. You deserve this and you deserve that. No, we're trying. We're doing the best that we can. But you know what? When you're easy to victimize and people know it, they're gonna. And a lot of them are gonna pretend that they're your friends. And then there's a lot of them that really intend well, but they just don't understand, or they're too afraid. They know all too well because of personal experience. People tell me to set up GoFundMe's. I've tried 5 different times. 3 of those other people made them for me, and money was put on them, but they destroyed them. There was nothing I could do. Needed help. But otherwise, they sent me notifications that they were destroying it. I'm like, well, or that they were fucking doing something with it. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this stuff. I literally need help in person. Please help me. I'm going to fuck it up. Is it, if I got to get a lawyer or a subpoena or something to get this, prove that I was trying to get help and the people were offering help, until people like Candace Bonner was threatened with going out and being thrown out into the cold. Her mother's conversations with me are on here. And believe me, I let both of those women know how unhappy I was with them. I called them both names, including cowards. Things are going to remain worse for all of us because people are afraid to come forward. Meanwhile, they don't have to go through 1/100th of what I had to. And meanwhile, we got the issue with Chris Kurth. He went to school with Candace. When those guys were threatening me around that time, and all that situation was going on. Cody Selhorst tried to threaten me to get me to leave town. That was the deputy that was here. I was trying to tell on him for what he did at 2 different situations that I've told the sheriff here about, and that's on this very YouTube, actually recorded. I've also got it actually recorded where I was trying to turn it in to all these different places that I'm supposed to call. And I've also got it recorded where other people continually tell me to call these places that I've already recorded me calling. All to end up back at square one. Somebody's got to do the right thing. It's the right thing to do. Rachel Klang should never have been molested by Rebecca Klang. Her own sister. Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger should never have been abused, beaten, neglected by stepdads or their real dad. They never should have been raped by their real dad or their uncle. They never should have been molested or beaten by their real dad or their uncle. They should have never had a mother who chose alcohol and drugs over them, and abusive men. And I posted up that very fucking YouTube, or not YouTube, but that very fucking post from Natalie. That very email from her email address that her stepmother Danica fucking admitted already was her email. It was sent by Natalie in 2016 before I ever went to Virginia. And why did I go to Virginia? Because Natalie was gonna fucking kill herself if I didn't. And just like she had rescued me when the Boulder police had pushed me to the point of wanting to kill myself. After hurting my back, not being able to take care of myself, and having my friends turn their backs on me because I wasn't able to do things that I did before. I couldn't even travel a block. And who came to my rescue? Maddie Boa, a meth head. And Natalie Bollinger, a meth head, came to my rescue. And you wonder why it is that I associate with these people. Because they know what it's like to be rejected. And even though they're going to have a withdrawal and they're going to have a major panic attack and a meltdown over their withdrawals, most of the women that I know, their panic attacks and withdrawals are from lack of their drug of choice. Some of them are on pills, some of them are on meth, some of them, like my mom, hers is cocaine, and she likes Stadol. Stadol is it's a migraine medication that you inhale with your nose. Pretty heavy stuff. And she also goes in for shots. Because it makes her feel really good for a whole week. And I proved these situations with a lot of people in this town, prove them on here with with conversations between them, and in some cases, conversations with their very own predators, or in some cases, conversations with people these folks claimed were their predators. We give leniency to women, don't we? Depends on the situation, depends on how she looks, depends on where she's at, and who she's talking to, and what her reputation is, and what her family reputation is, what the reputation is for somebody of her skin color or her religion, especially per that region. Good night, folks. Be safe, and I'll keep calling out the traitors.